The first time I heard you mention the name Edwin Valero, before he came over from Venezuela to the U.S., and you told me when he gets here, I want you to take a look at him because he's the best prospect to come out of Venezuela in 30 years. Did you really believe that?
Yes, I believe that because, number one, we had fought Valero in the amateurs in a national tournament
with Francisco Panchito
versus
Bojado.
Francisco Panchito Bojado. Valero won that particular fight, but in the last round, I recall he staggered Panchito, and he almost staggered Panchito in the amateurs, not with his skills and ability. And I remember that. Then when I got a call from a representative of Valero in Venezuela, he said, "Joe, you have to take a look at the tape." I took a look at the tape, and it didn't impress me at first. But then I reviewed the tape again, and I started really going into the techniques of this youngster. I can see his ability. I can see the power. I can see the killer instinct that he possessed. So when I mentioned that to you, I said, "David, you've got to look at this young man." There was no doubt in my mind that there was not natural talent, but raw talent in this youngster. And it was a matter of maybe polishing that raw talent and building a superstar to this kid. There was never any doubt in my mind.
But so I trained for 30 years, a professional and amateur fighters. And I'm working with Jory Boy and Ponce de Leon, Panchito Bojado, Mike Anchondo. But I trained Edwin Valero from Venezuela. He's a tremendous fighter, tremendous talent.
He loves to be in the ring. Yeah. You know, I told him here. I said, you know what? I told him that one of the things that the difference between you and a lot of other fighters here is that you love being in the ring. You don't matter how many rounds, but you just love it. That's your office, and it's like where you're comfortable, and like nothing else in the world matters but you in that ring. Because you know, he gets in there and he's just a happy camper. I said, well, you know what? Well, that's why you're going to be a superstar. If you continue to work and as hard as you do, you're going to be a superstar. You could be the next superstar of boxing.
This man was so sure of himself. His power was so natural that in his mind he thought that he can go out there and just by throwing the first few shots he would destroy the opponent. And he was right. You can see the improvement, you can see the talent, you can see his boxing ability. Whenever he knocked out an opponent, he was always thinking.
Right.
He would always go in and execute in time and change his speed and fake and jab and change the combinations in mid-air, change power in mid-air like a Michael Jordan. He had that ability. So that's basically what we tried to teach this youngster. And we were doing very well until the bad news from the commission that Valero could not fight anymore in the state.
At the start of 2004, he gets suspended by the New York Athletic Commission. And he doesn't know if he's ever going to fight again. Now, I would say probably 75 to 95% of most professional fighters, they get that news. Number one, they're mentally devastated. They don't know what the heck they're going to do. But you don't see them, if they know that they don't have a license to fight, and there's no guarantee that they're ever going to fight again, are you going to see them in the gym every day, day in and day out, training as though they have a fight coming up?
He surprised me because he never stopped. He never stopped one day to train. He have about a year and a half, I think 1 year and a half, don't fight over here in California. Believe me, he never stopped one day.
Him and Ponce were what I call
machines,
training freaks.
Yeah.
These were not humans.
I don't know how putting this guy in all together together. You have everything.
Valero was a street kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, Valero was a gang type kid, on motorcycles. They would get on the motorcycles and go hold up people and steal and cut the chains. And
Right.
that's the type of life that he had as a youngster. Valero was a wild man. His wife and baby, it brought him back to earth. His boxing, brought him back to life to become the type of person he is, a human being. But Valero is a street warrior, a street gang fighter. That's exactly what this youngster is. Every time we went into a sparring session with any fighter in any gym, we always tell them the same thing. Valero and Posse, guys, listen. If you beat up on these guys, if you show them that you are better than them, and you go out there and try to destroy them and knock them out, we're going to lose our sparring.
You know, I remember this thing because Lascano told me, I'll be back tomorrow. And he left headgear, gloves, cups in my gym. And he never coming back.
And I remember Robert Santa Cruz was the first one up in the ring with him. And he says, after the first round, he comes back and he tells me, the guy cheats. And I go, what do you mean he cheats? Yeah, he hits in the arms. And it hurts. I go, well, don't let him hit you in the arms.
You know, there were times when he didn't want to go out there. Joe, I want to go out there. And hey, Joe, watch how I'm going to hurt him. No, Valero, listen, why don't you do me a favor? Why don't we box him? Why don't we set him up? Why don't we destroy his guns? Okay. Right. Yeah. Why don't we hit the shoulders? Why don't we hit him in the heart? Why don't we hit him in the neck? Why don't we go to the Adam's apple and cut his breathing out? Yeah. Why don't we stab him a couple of times? Don't go for the kidney shot. Why don't you stab him right down the middle?
Juan Lascano didn't want to spar with him anymore. So it was basically the bulk of the sparring work that they got here in Southern California. It was with Jose Armando Santa Cruz, his brother Roberto, and Urbano Antillon, your guys. What is it about your guys?
we never refuse anybody in the gym.
You don't discriminate?
We don't discriminate. Short, tall, southpaws, right-handers, dirty fighters, bring them on. Bring them all on.
Edwin Valero. Listen, I don't want you to have any relationship with your beautiful wife because we're going to spar tomorrow. So maybe there was maybe a day or in between where Valero would you can see that Valero was weak, but he went in there one time, and I think that the brothers, the Santa Cruz brothers, they got to him.
Qué pedazo de puta madre. ¿Eh? Cuerpo. También me cansé. Abajo, me digas.
After he finished sparring about 6-7 rounds, he said, Joe, not tomorrow. The following day, said it after the following day. I'm going to give him an ass whipping. Joe, I'm going to destroy both of these guys. Because he knew in his mind maybe he was a little weak.
Right.
So we come back a couple of days later, and we sparred. I believe it was 14 rounds.
Yeah.
Valero sparred 14 rounds.
Right.
And just simply, overpowered these youngsters.